So quick question before we get into the craziness, right? Would people even know what to do if there was no chaos? If you woke up one day and it was just calm, peaceful, everybody getting along, everything was right, would people know what to do? I don't think they would. I think people have become so addicted to chaos and just everything everywhere going on at once. I think we've all learned how to just, coexist amongst all of the chaos. Just a thought. Anyway, man, you know how this goes. Question everything. You should. And remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's get to it.
While this was the best time of my life, and it was probably the best time of your life as well, I still don't understand how they had us here from age 4 to age 18, 12 years, okay? 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 9.5 months out of the year, and still manage to give us homework and tests to study for at home. Our whole entire life from age 4 to age 18, and that's just saying if you didn't go to college. That's our whole life was consumed by school. There was nothing else. It was just school. I just don't know how they got away with that. I understand parents need somewhere for the children to go while they're at work and all these different things. I get it. It does, in a sense, it's like a childcare system, and you're also getting your education. But I'm just confused as to how they were able to pull this off. Meaning that has to translate over. Why did our parents have to work 6 or 7 days out of the week, 8 hours a day, which is the reason why we had to be gone so much? Isn't that strange? While this was...
He has a point. To be honest with you, it was a total mismanagement of our time. I want my time back. The audacity of them to send homework home. Like, and I'm being serious, bro. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I know it's hard to tell sometimes, but no, that was a total mismanagement of our time. You had us for 8 hours. Everything you needed to get done in that 8 hours. When we go home, and that's probably why so many of us were burnt out by the time we got to college or graduated from high school. A lot of people were burnt out and just couldn't fathom going 4 more years. Maybe if you gave them time in between the class time and being at school and home to just exhale, you have a lot more people having the capacity to go to college. Simple. That little simple thing probably could have had more people attending college than actually attended. So, is this the culprit as to why a lot of the planes been falling out of the sky and different things happening? He up there chewing on wires that he ain't supposed to be chewing on or something? Like, what if that's the one of the issues going on? They up there chewing on wires.
Yo, this Vaseline and baby powder back here is 32 years old. It's probably older than me. It's been here ever since I was a kid.
That Vaseline?
Yeah,
That's what I said. I said that.
This is like...
Y'all were babies.
Yo.
But if she ever needed it, Grandma'd be like, hey, go get me that Vaseline off of that dresser right there, baby. Go get that Vaseline for me off that dresser. I ain't been this ashy in a while. Go get that Vaseline from me. Grandma, you're a hoarder. Like, what are you doing? That Vaseline is 32 years old. You're not about to put that on you, me, or nobody else in this world. I'm not going to allow it, Grandma. What are you doing? Like, bro, do you know the type of... Golly, 32 years old? Like that Vaseline should be ready to retire soon.
Diddy's attorney Anthony just dropped him. He said, I can't do this. Anthony filed in the Southern District of New York today, stating that he could not properly represent him. He didn't give very much detail, but one could only wonder what has came out that he is like, maybe I can't do this. Now, this is a big blow for Diddy because the fact that he hasn't had an attorney drop him already right before his court in 2 months, 2.5 months. Child. I don't know. What are y'all thinking? He goes to court in 3 months in May, but he is saying I cannot effectively represent him. Y'all, I think another superseding indictment's about to drop, and you know this Keefy D trial is finna start? Baby. Drop your comments down below. Diddy's attorney.
Whenever you see somebody holding their hands up like this in a photo, or maybe that's just the photo they use, but in my mind, that's what he did when he said, I can't do this. But when you hear a lawyer say, I can't do this, I can't represent him effectively, when you hear an attorney say that, after seeing some of the things that attorneys represent, murderers, serial killers, like sometimes you just think attorneys don't have a pulse. You automatically assume that for some of the things that they do and places they go in their mind to represent some of the people that they represent. So when you hear them say, I can't do this, that makes you wonder, what did he see? What did he see that the public hasn't seen yet, that he was privy to, that made him go, I can't do this. I cannot do this. I'm not willing to do this. That's the question I had. Like, what did he see?
Y'all, please, when you go to the grocery store, please make sure that you check your receipt. You would not believe what just happened to me. So I went to a local Aldi here in St. Louis, Missouri. I already called the hotline because of what just happened. But oh my God, I can't believe that he just tried to steal money from me. So I only had 3 items. It's bad enough that the inflation is what it is. The 3 items came up to a total of $19.96. I used my Cash App card because it gave me immediate alerts. And I did tap to pay, right? When I hit the tap to pay and the screen came up to ask me if I wanted cash back, he hit a button on his side, the cashier, and it went away. And guess what happened? The payment didn't go through because he submitted for me to give them $100 in cash back that I didn't have. So here I am thinking, like, why my card get declined for $19 when I set a budget? Because that's what you do with Cash App. You set a budget, make sure you don't go over it, right? So I said, well, set my stuff to the side. I got a fraud alert. He looking a little nervous, right? So I go over to the side and I look at my Cash App and I'm trying to dive into what just happened. And I'm seeing exactly this. It says, not enough cash for $119.64. So I went back up to him and I said, so you tried to charge me $119.64? He said, no. Oh, so you tried to get cash back of $100. And it was 2 people ahead of me, and it was a black lady. And she said, when she left, he said, I guess she doesn't want her cash back, and put the money to the side. So please, be careful when you out here shopping. This is not on Aldi. This is on this worker here, a guy named Corey, who is trying to steal money. He is stealing money from people using the cash back system. Please be aware of the scams that are going on in this world. And I know that this happened to me on purpose because God knows I use my platform for everything. I make a video about me go to the doggone tree. So God he did this on purpose. Please be watchful. Make sure you share this with your friends. Save it. I don't care. Repost it. This needs to be out so it doesn't happen to someone else, because I'm pretty sure I'm not the first. I hope I'm the last because I reported his butt. Yeah, I did. But please be sure that you're paying attention to what is actually being debited from your account. I'll see y'all later.
Yo, this is crazy. Like, we gotta be on guard about everything, everywhere we go. Anytime we try to use our debit or credit cards, we have to be on guard. And we have to look at everybody like they're a potential scammer. That's where we are now in life. So, mind you, if I ever go through your line and you're a cashier, don't be upset or alarmed if I'm looking at you and I'm skeptical about you. It's because of the type of things that are going on. People are getting scammed left and right. This is crazy, man. Now imagine somebody who didn't have their stuff on alert and didn't realize it or didn't pay no attention to it till they got home. Or later on down the line, and now you're trying to fight with your bank. Like, this is, man, y'all, be on the lookout.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw! This is...
I thought he was about to crank that thing up, bro. What is going on? What is this? Where did this happen? Like, what? I thought he was about to crank that up.
I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. So call me an independent. But is this not becoming some cartoon character stuff at this point? I mean, seriously.
Okay, so I do have to go back to CPAC one more time, and it's because y'all have been asking me questions. Not about the... But y'all have been asking, who is that standing next to him?
It's all for bureaucracy.
And indeed, no, that is not Frodo Baggins. And that's not Ringo Starr. That person standing next to him is, in fact, this man here, the president of Argentina. And yes, he does look like Smeagol after he got the ring. But no, he's not coming for the rings of power. He's just coming for democracy. He is a terrible president, and he does look evil. But if you look at him on stage with Elon, who's all teened up, you notice he's a little nervous. And I think he purposely handed him that chainsaw without any gasoline in it, so it couldn't start. Because he certainly would have been ripped to shreds on that stage, the way that man was flinging that thing around. But yes, if you're wondering, Frodo is safe, and no, he did not make it to Mordor with the One Ring.
13,000 years. That's how long the Black Knight satellite has been watching us. The only problem is satellites didn't exist until 1957, so who or what has been watching us? The Black Knight is 30 feet long, weighs 10 tons, is jagged, asymmetrical in shape, orbits in the opposite direction of man-made satellites, and some believe that it's made out of titanium. In 1899, Nikola Tesla picked up strange signals coming from space, which he believed was an advanced civilization trying to make contact with us, but his peers dismissed him as crazy because, remember, satellites didn't exist. Early 1950s, radio operators are reporting a strange interference from the sky, but again, their claims were dismissed because satellites didn't exist. In 1957, the Soviet Union launches the first satellite into orbit. Now satellites exist. Fast forward 1960s, now astronauts are reporting and noticing a strange object in orbit. The U.S. military even begins to track this strange object. NASA begins to scramble a bit because they can't hide behind satellites don't exist. So instead, they dismiss the Black Knight as space debris. To this day, they still refer to it as space debris. A guy named Lonnie Duncan claimed to have made contact with the satellite, and the satellite told him that it was brought to Earth 13,000 years ago, and its home planet is 200 light years away. However, when questioned further about this, Lonnie would backtrack, saying that he made up the entire thing. A guy named Charles Hall alleged that while he was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base, that he interacted with the Tall Whites for 2 years, and the Tall Whites told him that the Black Knight satellite is their technology. If you're interested in seeing that video, you could just click on the comment response. Whether it's actual space debris or a satellite, remember, it is still orbiting Earth.
The whole point of investing is to grow your money faster than the inflation rate, right? You want your money to work hard for you. And what we know is if we look back in time, we know that stocks over the long term do tend to go up. So like the last 10 years, which, was pretty bumpy along the way with COVID and the stock market plummeted. If you put $100 into the stock market 10 years ago, it grew to $295. That's an 11.4% annualized return. So I want you to compare 11.4% a year versus over that same time, if you put your money in the bank, maybe you got a good rate in the last couple of years, but prior to that, it was basically 0.5%. So you've got to have a long enough time horizon to weather those storms. And I want to be clear, no matter what, the moment you begin investing, there will be a storm and it's going to test you. So we always want to really underscore, don't invest unless you have at least 5, 10, 15 years. That way, those downward movements won't freak you out as much. The whole point of investing is to grow.
Let's put it this way. This is what needs to be taught in schools. Now, you could decide what point in your schooling a journey that this message should be given to you, right? Whether it should be high school, I would say high school, but you could also start them out in middle school. You know, used to hear people doing like penny stocks in middle school and stuff like that. But that was only because a teacher might have been interested in penny stocks and he just decided to show his students. It wasn't in the curriculum or something scheduled for him to teach. So, but this should be taught and applied. You should have a way to say, okay, you know, y'all take us on field trips. We go home, we get money for the field trips. How about set us up? Let's start an account in middle school and let's start growing it. That way you can see what it is by the time you graduate. And then that right there is incentive enough for you to keep going. Like, this should totally be taught. Get several of the successful ones together that know how to do this long-term investing strategies that have proven track records that you could show and display and start them out in middle school. Imagine if everyone did that.
Breaking news of the greatest kind, as multiple news sources are reporting that President Donald J. Trump is highly considering using home confinement over housing people at federal prison camps. Bill Clinton was the first president to suggest that if somebody can be in a federal prison camp, they could also be at home. You may remember last week we broke the story that Elon Musk was talking about the fact that home confinement only cost $150 per month, while keeping somebody in the halfway house costs $83.75 per day. Well, the cost of incarceration per day in a federal prison is an average of $120.80, according to numbers released by the Justice Department in 2023. Using home confinement over federal prison camps would mean that several staff members at those camps could move to vacancies at the already bleeding federal prisons across the country. The federal prison staffs across the country have been understaffed by at least 8,000 employees over the last 4 years. In addition, having offenders that were in federal prison camps in home confinement instead would allow them to work actual jobs and pay restitution a lot quicker than the federal program that they have called FRP. In many cases, inmates that are headed to federal prison camp basically learn their lesson when the FBI or the DEA kick the door down. What do you think about this? Do you think that inmates in federal prison camp should go home on an ankle monitor instead? Sound off in the comments.
I don't know about this one. I don't know. I get the premise and what he's saying as far as a monetarily standpoint. I get that side of it, you know, but some of them are in there because they did something to a person they're living with at home. So you had to come there and get them from the home and take them to jail. And then let's say, okay, you do that and they still do something. Then what's the next step? Like, I get it, but at the same time, I got a little pushback. So this definitely needs to be talked about. Yeah. What do y'all think? What are y'all thoughts on that? Because that's tricky. I get it though. Look how much money you would save, but it would possibly have to be determined based upon the severity of the crime. Yeah, it would have to be the severity of the crime. Unless you say, okay, you mess up this, then we shipping you to El Salvador or something like that. You know, it would have to be something. And then you have to ask that person, what if the person who sent them to jail doesn't want them coming back there? Maybe they don't have a home to go to now, depending on what they did. So then what's the next step? So it's a lot of questions that has to be answered.
Mr. President, there are reports that you were considering merging the United States Postal Service with the Commerce Department. Can you elaborate on if this is something you're considering?
Well, we want to have a post office that works well and doesn't lose massive amounts of money. And we're thinking about doing that, and it'll be a form of a merger, but it'll remain the Postal Service, and I think it'll operate a lot better than it has been over the years. It's been just a tremendous loser for this country. Tremendous amounts of money are being lost, and we think we can do something that'll be very good and keep it a very similar way, but whether it's a merger or just using some of the very talented people that we have elsewhere so it doesn't lose so much. It's losing a tremendous amount of money.
Mr. President, some members of Congress in red districts are facing pushback from voters in town halls. We know that Americans voted for you on the immigration and the economy, but these voters say they're angry and frustrated by these firings. They don't like the work of Elon Musk and these other actions. What do you say to them?
Who do you work for?
I work for ABC News, sir.
Who?
ABC News.
No wonder. Let me just tell you that I have today the highest poll numbers I've ever had. I have today the highest poll numbers of any Republican president ever. We haven't even checked the Democrats, but that's what I was just told. And they like the job that we're doing. They like the job that Elon's doing. He's doing something that a lot of people wouldn't have the courage to do. We want to streamline our country. We want to streamline, because you know why? Because we want our country to survive and thrive. And we're finding billions and billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse. Billions, and I mean numbers like you wouldn't believe. And we haven't even started yet. So it's actually just the opposite. We've polled it, and people are thrilled. They can't even believe it's happening. And it won't affect many people. It'll only affect the people that get caught stealing. The waste, fraud, and abuse is at a level like nobody's ever seen. It's been going on for years. And all you have to do is look at the Social Security rolls, look at some of the things, look at where the money is going. The Attorney General's looking into something, environmental protection, $20 billion. And it's out and out fraud. So I think the people are very happy. Yes, please.
Mr. President, I want to ask you about this week, the Secretary spent 4 hours with the European Union trade representative. The European Union has signaled that they would lower tariffs and do a trade deal with the United States.
Yeah, the European Union wants to come back. They've treated us very badly, and the European Union wants to lower their tariffs because of the fact we were paying a fortune of tariffs. We couldn't sell a car there. We couldn't sell our farm products there. They wouldn't take anything. Now all of a sudden they're being very nice, and that's going to happen with a lot of others too. The European Union is wanting to lower its barriers at very low levels. They want to now bring their car number, which was extremely high, down to 2.5%, which is the same thing that we charge. That's reciprocal. See, that's what is happening, reciprocal. And I think it's a big start in the right direction with the European Union.
You called President Zelensky of Ukraine a dictator. Do you think that President Putin of Russia is also a dictator?
I think that President Putin and President Zelensky are going to have to get together, because you know what? We want to stop killing millions of people. You have young soldiers being killed. If you saw the pictures that I saw of the battlefield from satellite, you've never seen any pictures like that. Soldiers are being killed by the thousands a week, thousands of soldiers a week. As we speak, they're being killed. That's why I want to see a ceasefire, and I want to get the deal done. I think we have a chance to get the deal done. I had to make sure that Russia wanted to do it. It's a war that would have never happened if I was president, but it did happen. So I got stuck with it, and I want to stop people from being killed. You know, it doesn't affect the United States very much. It's on the other side of the ocean. It does affect Europe, and we've put in 3 times more money. We're in for $300 billion. They're in for $100 billion. And, you know, Europe is also doing it in the form of a loan. Biden just gave them money. There was no loan. There was no security. There was no anything. So we're going to either sign a deal, or there's going to be a lot of problems with them. So we're going to sign a deal to get security, because we have to do that. We're spending our treasure. They're spending their blood. They are. And they're very brave, and, you know, in every way you can imagine. But we are spending our treasure on a country that's very, very far away. and it's okay, but we have to be treated the same as Europe is being treated. Europe gets their money back. Europe is basically giving nothing because they get it back in the form of a loan, and it's a guaranteed loan. We don't get our money back, and we're losing. I mean, we don't want to do that anymore, so we're signing an agreement, hopefully in the next fairly short period of time, that will assure us that we'll get $400 or $500 billion back. We're in there for $300 billion. Now, one other thing, Europe is at 100. We're at 300. We think it has to equalize. In other words, they have to come up with more money because it has a big effect in Europe. It doesn't have much of an effect on us because we have a big, beautiful ocean in between. But it does affect, and Biden should have never gotten us into this mess. We had an incompetent president who got us into a mess, but we're going to get you out of it. The same thing in the Middle East. We're going to have some good news in the Middle East. What happened yesterday, the sight of those babies was not acceptable to anybody. Nobody's seen anything like it.
Mr. President, are you going to Moscow? There's a report out of France that you're going to Moscow on May 9th.
No, I'm
to
not.
join President Putin.
I'm not.
And then if I could, sir, just ask you about Kash Patel, who's going to be sworn in as soon as your FBI director. Talk to us about your reaction to him getting sworn in and the fact that many agents across the country are concerned that they will be fired en masse for simply just doing their jobs.
No, I think the agents are very happy about Kash. In fact, the agents led the charge for Kash. One of the reasons I loved Kash and wanted to put him in is because of the respect the agents had for him. I think he'll go down as the best ever at that position. And it turned out he was very easy to get approved. You know, I was not sure. He's a tough guy, strong guy. He has his opinions, and I wasn't sure. He turned out to be he went very smoothly. I don't know if he's in the room now. He's going to be in the room very shortly. Where is he? Oh, good. I'm saying the right thing. I can't speak too badly about him. I better be careful. I will say this about Kash, and Howard understands this. One of the reasons that I wanted him is because the agents love this guy and they respect this guy, and this is what they wanted. And even somebody like Trey Gowdy, who's a very good guy, but known as somewhat of a moderate person, he came out with a statement that was so incredible. He said, Kash is an incredible person. People don't realize it. When he said that, there was no doubt left. It was really a big statement made by somebody that's respected and on the moderate side. And I will tell you, I think Kash is going to go down as maybe the best ever when it's all said and done. So I'm glad he's willing to do it. Thank you, Kash.
A little bit more. You talked about. Could you speak a little bit more about your meeting with Tim Cook? You said that he was going to invest hundreds of billions of dollars. There's specific projects that he spoke to you about. What were those?
All over the country. He's going to start building, and he doesn't want to pay tariffs. And he's going to start building, but very big numbers. You have to speak to him. I assume they're going to announce it at some point, but very big numbers. He was here yesterday. I met with him at length, and Apple is coming here with tremendous dollars. They're going to be spending a lot of money in the United States, more than they've ever spent by a factor of probably 10.
Did you were reporting that you were signing a memo later to counter digital service taxes?
Well, will you speak? I mean, what are you doing, reading it?
Yeah,
Can't you just say it without having to read it?
My question?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Bloomberg, we're reporting that you're expected to sign tariffs or a memo later on tariffs on digital taxes. Is there any idea how high you might go with
We are going to be doing that. Digital, what they're doing to us in other countries is terrible with digital, so we'll be announcing that. Are we signing it maybe today? Today. And we'll talk about that in a little while. You'll be here.
Are you going to put the secretary in charge of the Postal Service?
He's going to look at it. He's got a great business instinct, which is what we need, and he'll be looking at it, and we think we can turn it around.
It's the second time he done brought up the post office, bro. I got to call my dad. He's a retired postal worker, so I got to call him because he is going to have something to say, so I got to make sure I have some time when I call him because he's going to give me an earful about what he thinks about this. Now, he's not a Trump guy, so I want to hear what he thinks about this because even though he's retired, he still act like he got one foot in. So I want to hear his thoughts because he was somebody that worked there for 30 plus years at the Postal Service. So everything that Trump's speaking about with the Postal Service and how they're losing money and different things and how it's more so of a liability and expense than it is of bringing anything in. So what's the solution here? What are they going to do? This is the Postal Service. It's interesting to hear, though. And then the other thing with Apple, I had heard the reports that they were meeting, but I wonder what's going to come of that. Them spending big money on what? Where? And what does that mean? Does that mean more job opportunities? What does that mean? I'm interested.
But it is the Postal Service. I mean, we're leaving the Postal Service, but we're losing so much money with the Postal Service, and we don't want to lose that kind of money. So the Secretary and some others that have talent, that kind of talent, we'll be looking at.
And I always thought the Postal Service, like when emails started coming out and different things like that, I thought the Postal Service would slowly die out. You know what I mean? As technology continued to grow and different things like that, I just thought it would phase itself out, but it didn't. People still use it for a lot of different things than just mail. You know what I mean? It's a lot of other uses for the Postal Service, but I thought it would gradually die out. To see it still around is surprising to me.
What minerals agreement with Ukraine, Mr. President?
What?
How close are you to striking a minerals deal?
I think we're pretty
Ukraine?
close, yeah. I think they want it. They feel good about it. And it's significant. It's a big deal. But they want it. And it keeps us in that country. And they're very happy about it. But we get our money back. This should have been signed long before we went in. This should have been signed by Biden. But Biden didn't know too much about what he was doing. The war should have never happened, number one. When it did happen, it could have been settled the first week or 2 weeks. After that, it got bad. It got really bad. But it should have never happened, and it should have been settled, and it could have been settled very easily at the beginning. Now it's tougher, but we'll get it settled.
Germany has elections on Sunday. What are your thoughts? What do you expect to happen in the elections on Sunday?
Who has elections?
Germany.
Oh, Germany. I wish them luck. We got our own problems. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Press.
President Trump taking questions in the Oval Office after the swearing-in ceremony for Howard Lutnick there as Commerce Secretary.
People will ask the question, are we in a simulation? Like, are we just in someone's computer somewhere and we don't understand that's what our world is? And I say to that, of course we are. And the evidence of it is all around us. Everything in our world is built off of a binary system of zeros and ones. You could say that as either stuff or empty space. The empty space is the zero and the taking up space is the one. This is how our computers work. Is it a zero or is it a one? Is the light off or is it on? Is it darkness or is it light? Every system that we know about, be it mathematics or spiritual systems or colors, they're expressions of that fundamental building block system. So you sort of have the fundamental unit, that which is, and then the unit that reflects what is or experiences what is. This exists in the divine masculine and feminine, or you could say the yin and yang. The divine feminine is that which is being, that which exists but is unaware of itself. And the divine masculine is that which is derivative or that which experiences. You can see evidence of this in our mythology. In every fairy tale, you have good and then you have evil. You have the light and then the dark. Knowing or wisdom always represents the light, and then ignorance or not knowing always represents the dark. That's why when someone is smart, we often call them bright. And this is where it starts to get tricky because everything actually is the light. There is nothing that is not the light. But if all you have is light, then you can't see anything because you would just have a blank white space. So you need the shadow or the darkness or the ignorance to shade things, to give contrast. And the contrast sort of fuels the journey or the exploration or the expansion. People who understand the ultimate oneness of everything understand that you can't actually fight the evil or the ignorance. And what you actually have to do is integrate it and remind it of what it truly is. And it's a good sign in our culture because if you watch our old fairy tales, what they say is, we fought evil and prevailed. Good job, all done. And what our newer mythology stories are saying is, let's explore the dark, the trauma, the evil, and understand how it got there. There's always a part in our movies where we get to see how the villain got this way. Now, coming back to the idea of binaries, because everything is sort of built out of these binaries and it's just increasing complexities of binaries, The universe does have absolute truth. You can ask the universe a question, and it can be a yes or a no if it is a well-formulated question. These sort of fundamental building blocks or fundamental truths we call spiritual principles. And if you build a system on these fundamental truths, you get a really nice crystalline structure. Your system could be a pyramid or it could be a governmental system. But if you build your system on some half-truths, you're going to get an imperfect crystalline structure. So if there's some ignorance built in to whatever you're creating, and it's like you will have bubbles in your structure, weaknesses in your structure. The universe will say, that's true, that's true, that's true. Oh, that's not true. Every human is equal. And that's why it's a good idea to seek light, to seek wisdom, to seek knowledge, to seek understanding of how to build good structure based on sort of fundamental truths or fundamental laws. The other thing about these systems is that they always respect the individual unit more than they do the complexity. So the simulation will always ask, how well are you valuing the truth and the will of the individual? If you value the building blocks well, then you will get more complexity. We can see this in our gardens. If you get good compost that has a good range of minerals, then it will be a good building block for the complexity of your garden. And your garden will probably be as successful as your inputs. Now, if you have a high amount of complexity that's been built up, but all of a sudden the building blocks go sour, maybe something in your soil got poisoned. It's as if the base of your pyramid just dissolves. And the outer structure, the complexity, will not tolerate that. And this has tremendous implications for the accumulation of complexity of all kinds of things. That could be a population of mice that no longer has enough food. It could also be an economy that has built up too much concentrated wealth, or a governmental system that is not respecting the individual will.